So in Britain at the moment, there is an open letter by prominent UK women, just random, otherwise unaffiliated women, trying to stop right-wingers linking immigration to sexual abuse. Now, one might ask, why would we want to do that since the causal linkage is so clearly there, and that would amount to us effectively denying reality and pretending something that is happening isn't happening. But I can't help but notice there are commonalities in the women who are doing this. Now, of course, they're all left-wing. They're all very left-wing people, as far as I'm concerned. But there's also a disproportionate number of them who are from an immigrant background themselves. And so I think that this has some connection to that, because, as they say, they're like, politicians are exploiting violence against women to fuel hate and division. So, well, maybe that's the hate and division is being brought by the people we're allowing in. And so anyway, signatories include Paloma Faith, Charlotte Church, Anushka Shankar, MPs such as Kim Johnson, Ellie Chowns, Diane Abbott, Zara Sultana, of course, the usual types. So the Guardian presenting this as if this is just random women have popped up and said, hang on a second. No, these are all left-wing activists. We reject the far right's racist lies about protecting women and girls. They're not defenders of women. They exploit violence against women to fuel hate and division. It's like, okay, let's assume that they did. That doesn't reduce the amount of violence against women, and that's certainly not increasing the amount of violence against women. What is happening? The problem is, and everyone can see this, and we'll go through the numbers in a minute, because it's not like the numbers aren't in. It's not like we don't have these. Why are you against them trying to stop foreigners from committing sexual assault against women? Because when you're on the other side of this, that basically means you want foreigners to have free run doing this. Anyway, the open letter is titled Women Against the Far Right. Again, it's not women against sexual assault. It's women on the left who feel that they are not going to be personally the subject of a foreign migrant assaulting them in the street, unlike many women in this country who are. They've decided, no, they are a sacrifice they're willing to make. And so they've done this in wake of the protests against outside of the asylum seekers' hotels. And they obviously are just doing this for political reasons. They complain about Nigel Farage, they complain about Robert Jenrick, they complained about the medieval attitudes, or it was Farage and that complained about the medieval attitudes of the people coming. And they're like, no, the safety of your 3 young daughters doesn't bother me at all. What bothers me, and again, I can't help but feel there is an ethnic dimension to this, there's certainly a political dimension to it. What bothers me is that you're stigmatizing men who have the same skin tone as me. It's like, okay, but men who have the same skin tone as you often come from cultures which have vastly different attitudes towards women, and we don't really want them just roaming freely about our society, because it turns out they are indeed more likely to commit a sexual assault against a woman because their cultures and communities have different standards for women. The letter, which has been coordinated by Stand Up to Racism, again, just a front of the Socialist Workers' Party. So this is pure communism, pure communists using these women as a way to try and stand in the way. No, you can't possibly be critical of a bunch of foreign men that we've had brought into the country and now sexually assaulting girls. You can't be critical of that. So well, why not? Like, that seems to be exactly the sort of thing we should be critical of. And perhaps if we were critical of it, these men would be less inclined to follow the customs and cultures of their home countries and be more inclined to follow the customs and culture of our country. As in, some pressure ought to be put on these men to understand they can't just behave towards women in our country like they did back in theirs. They say, Stand Up to Racism says, violence against women and girls is a serious and urgent issue. But, but there's a but here, is there? There's a but here, right. So we've brought in a bunch of foreign men. You concede that this is a serious and urgent issue, but we've got to make this political. We've got to make sure that this is a partisan issue. We can't have Nigel Farage and Robert Jenrick targeting refugees, Muslims and migrants because, and this is the bit that really entertained me, there is no evidence that people seeking refuge are more likely to commit acts of sexual violence. Many of them survivors of violence, war and persecution. Blaming them distracts from tackling the deep-rooted causes of abuse and holding those truly responsible to account. The thing is, like I said, the numbers are in. I mean, this is quite small, so you might not be able to see it on the screen. But at the very bottom, we have native British people. And then right at the top, you have various immigrant countries. These are just foreign nationalities. As Rupert Lowe points out, top of this list is Afghanistan. Like, these people are massively overrepresented in sexual assaults. You've got Afghanistan, Eritrea, and just various other foreign countries where they have very different views on women. And so you guys saying, well, there's no evidence that they're more likely to commit acts of sexual violence. Yeah, there is. And the thing is, you'd be like, okay, Rupert Lowe is an evil right-winger. How dare he? He's not allowed to defend women and girls. Okay, well, let's go to Sky News, shall we? So Sky News is a left-wing publication. It's a mainstream centre-left establishment publication in Britain. And they're like, well, Nigel Farage has said an Afghan male is 22 times more likely of being convicted of rape than someone born in this country. Sky News' data and forensics unit looks at the data. Interesting headline. I can't help but feel if that was false, you would put it in the headline. And the fact that it's not in the headline indicates to me that there is some truth to this, Sky News, because I know your game. Let's have a look. So they go through a statement. We analysed the data. This is what we found. Our analysis, informed by advice given to us by the Office for National Statistics, the Home Office, and Oxford University's Migration Observatory, shows that there is likely a significant difference in offending rates among Afghans compared with Britons, but likely not to the extent described by Farage. Our estimates conclude, and again, these are only estimates, that Afghans are closer to 3 times more likely to be convicted of sexual offence than someone born in the UK, rather than 22 times. So, well, there we go. They're only 3 times more likely to commit a sexual assault of some sort than someone born and raised in Britain. So that is remarkable. So, okay, maybe Nigel Farage is over-egging it a little bit. 22 times is quite high. But if it was twice as likely, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's too much. 3 times as likely. And again, it could be more. They're just making estimates. The point being is this narrative has just been... It is not tenable to argue that there is no evidence that refugees are more likely to commit acts of sexual violence. Everyone knows that they are. The numbers are in. Even Sky News are like, well, we can't say they're not, but we will do our best to downplay it, actually, because frankly, again, we have the convictions. Like, the convictions are in, and we have the data by nationality, and by God, does it look bad. I mean, obviously, like, if you do the United Kingdom and divide it by the Afghanistan one, then it comes out to 22 times more. But again, I'm not interested in parsing the data and with a fine-tooth comb here. Let's just take Sky News as, well, they're only 3 times more likely to sexually assault someone than a native-born British people. Yeah, that's bad. That's really, really bad. And I don't want them here because of that. Because I have 2 daughters and a wife. Like, I don't want my wife and children to be unsafe walking the streets in this country because we decided that the leftists are right and we should allow as many foreign men in. If anything, what this looks like is an attempt to get British women and girls assaulted by foreigners. That's all this would be for. Like, the ideology is window dressing. They hype on and go, no, you can't say that. It's like, but it's factually true. And it is going to be the consequence. And it's going to be the consequence. So the letter continues accusing the far right of seizing on lies and spreading misinformation to mobilize protests. But what are the lies and misinformation? Everything's true that we're saying. And it's true, admitted by the people who oppose us and everything. They admit that it's true. They know it's true. And so the truth is, they say, that sexual violence is endemic across society and far too often ignored by those in power. But the thing is, it's not actually endemic. It's actually really low amongst the native-born British population because we know how we want our country to be settled and governed and the way that we deal with one another. And so defaulting to the abstract sexual violence in a universal abstract mode completely conceals, and deliberately so, the actual granular detail of this. Because if you smush all of the sexual assaults together and go, wow, men are bad, yeah, okay, I guess in the abstract, in the very low resolution description, you'd be like, yeah, well, it's just men, isn't it? It's like, no, actually, like I said, we can get a bit granular with these details and just do it by nationality. And then you realize it's not just men. What it is men from certain areas of the world where they have what I would consider to be retrograde views on the way that people in general should be treated, and in particular women, and that's not acceptable. I don't want these men just randomly wandering around our country. And I'm sorry that they're co-ethnics of you people, like Labour Pierce, Shami Chakrabarti, Nadia Whittam, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sorry that these people look like you. And I'm sorry that these people come from cultures where your ancestors came from. That's not my problem. I don't care if you're like, well, I'm insulted by racism or xenophobia or anti-immigration sentiment or whatever, or I feel in some way complicit because of the shared heritage, ancestral heritage that we have with these men who have broken into our country and then began going on a spree of sexual assaults. I'm sorry that that's something that makes you feel targeted. I don't care. What I care about is that these men are here and they shouldn't be, and they're committing sexual assaults against British women, and they shouldn't be, and it is entirely within our power to fix this by simply deporting them. And that's what we should be doing. No ifs, no buts, no, oh, but what about me? Don't care. I'm not soliciting your opinions on this. I want them gone, and the majority of the British public, overwhelmingly, and this is even like the majority of like Lib Dem voters and people like that, the majority of Labour voters, the majority of Conservative voters, Reform voters, Lib Dem voters, it's only the Greens that are not majority, we need to deport the illegals at this point. It's only the Green voters, and they're a tiny fraction of the electorate anyway, and a self-selected Islamist and radical communist bloc. It's like, right, they're not going anywhere. The point being, most people agree. And if you don't agree, that's too bad. No one cares. They have to go.